Well, let's take it from the federal level and bring it on down to the state of Florida. And let's start with the rule book, the constitutional amendments. So we've got Amendment 1, which is a solar amendment, and then we've got Amendment 2, which is the marijuana amendment. We've got a few more on there, but certainly those two have been garnering most of the airwaves for state level constitutional amendments.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to judge the solar amendment at this point. I think it's going to be close. They got to get 60% to pass constitutional amendments. And, this solar amendment has been a ton of political controversy here in the last couple of weeks. The pro-amendment groups are running a ton of TV ads.
The solar groups are seeing a lot of their presence on social media as well, but I think equally that's balanced by the pro group on social media for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of advertising. It's a little bit hard to know how the common Joe average voter is viewing that issue.
Right.
So that will be one that'll be really interesting to watch tomorrow night. So far at least, the numbers we've seen on the medical marijuana amendment makes it look like that will pass. But 2 years ago, that issue was on the ballot, and the opponents of it were able to drive it down below 60%. So again, we need to watch that one tomorrow night. That's Amendment 2 on the ballot.
Yeah, it just looks like the oxygen from what would have been spent on that issue got taken up by Amendment 1, and it's almost as if the proponents of that campaign are just kind of playing a steady as she goes, just keep quiet, keep moving campaign.
Well, the proponents of it have always thought that if they can get that onto a presidential election ballot, that they have a better chance of passing it because there's a lot more voters, a lot more Democrats, a lot more young voters.
So are you saying Democrats and young voters are pro-weed? Is that what you're saying?
You can take that whatever you want, but
right.
But they've always thought that if they get it on the presidential ballot, they had a better chance of passing it than they did 2 years ago, which is a relatively lower turnout election for governor and some of those other seats.
Okay, well, let's turn our focus to what will impact Floridians directly, and that's going to be our Senate and our House races. So let's talk about some of the Senate races that are still in play and that we're seeing a lot of money going into.
Similar to the congressional races, there's only 5 or 6 real Senate races that I think everybody is focusing on. One is in Tampa, which is an open seat that House Majority Leader Dana Young is running in. She's raised a ton of money.
Against Mr. Busing, right?
And Bob Busing is an attorney down there, very well-known attorney. He's running as a Democrat. And Joe Redner, who's a strip club mogul, is running as an independent. There's some thought that he may peel off some votes in that race and influence the outcome of that race, depending on how close it is. In North Florida, there's a big race between Rod Smith, a former senator in Alachua County, he's a Democrat, against Keith Perry, the Republican. He's a Republican state representative. They're running for a race that includes Alachua, Putnam, and part of Marion counties. That one is getting a lot of attention. Republicans are trying to hold on to that seat. Smith is a well-known brand in that area, so that's a close one too. The other major action is going on in Miami-Dade.
Of course, always, right?
There's 3 big races down there, one of which involves Miguel Diaz de la Portilla, Senator Miguel Diaz de la Portilla, who's a Republican, trying to hold on to his seat, which has been redrawn against State Representative Jose Javier Rodriguez, who's a Democrat. I'm hearing that the Democrats think they have a pretty decent chance of picking that up just because of the demographic changes within the redrawn district. But Diaz de la Portilla has a ton of money. He also has a name that everybody knows in Dade County.
Right.
Down in more south of there, Frank Artilles, Republican state representative, is trying to knock off Dwight Bullard, who is a incumbent senator, Democrat. That race has gotten nasty.
Right.
And the other race is that Senator Anna Terry Flores is trying to hold on to her seat in Dade County.
Yeah, well, so Dade's in play as always. So thankfully, hopefully ballot boxes and all that good stuff down there are on the straight and narrow.
Well, so far turnout looks pretty heavy in early voting down there. So
and turnout is heavy. So when we turn off the lights tomorrow night and we wake up Wednesday morning, what do you think the headline's going to say?
Well, I mean, the headline is whatever happens in the presidential race.
Right,
I'm beyond trying to guess what goes on in this presidential race. I mean, I think in these other races, like I alluded to earlier with the congressional races and some of these legislative races, I think the Democrats are going to make some gains. They may be marginal gains. I mean, the state house, there's races in Tampa, Orlando, and in Miami-Dade that are really the highlighted races. But you know, whether there's going to be huge shifts within those delegate or within those you know, overall makeup of the House, the Senate, congressional delegation, I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Okay, so the races conclude. We all go to sleep. We take a breath on Wednesday, and then the two chambers are going to start working on their leadership. Speaker Corcoran is already out, and he's got a game plan for later on this week. What happens with Speaker Corcoran?
Well, there's a lot of talk and buzz in the lobbyist community, especially about this, but. Speaker Corcoran has said that this week he's going to name his leadership team immediately after the election. We think that may happen on Wednesday, which is, you know, always something that's watched closely in Tallahassee. But also he's going to roll out rules for the House this week. And there's a lot of discussion. He's made it very clear he wants to make changes, particularly related to how lobbyists interact with legislators. You know, there's a proposal that he's floated out there about requiring lobbyists to do some reporting of when they talk to House members about issues. That one is getting a lot of discussion. I'm not sure a lot of people know how it will play out. You know, there's also, he's floated an idea about preventing or at least cracking down on local governments hiring lobbyists to lobby the legislature, which is raising all kinds of issues because local governments throughout the state hire lobbyists. I mean, it's a big operation. Right. And there's also First Amendment issues, questions about that. So I think there's going to be a lot of attention focused on that. You know, they're going to go into an organizational session 2 days before Thanksgiving, swear in the new members, swear in the legislative leadership, and then it's a go. I mean, right. Committee meetings start in December, and we're heading towards the legislative session in March.
12:01 on Wednesday, the game is on, that's for sure.
I'm not sure it ever goes off.
Right, that's true. That's a great point. Well, Jim, thanks as always for your great insights, and we appreciate our partnership with the News Service of Florida.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today's Capitol Dateline Online. For more news, views, please go to our website at capitoldateline.online.com or check us out on our Facebook page. Thanks for tuning in.